subscribe. Don't forget to comment. I'd love to read from you. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome again to Abisisa channel. My name is Abimbola. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about high flyers. Is your child a high flyer, or are your children high flyers? So you're asking yourself, my child is a high flyer, why should I bother? This video is for you. I'm going to be sharing with you attributes of high flyers. I'm also going to be telling you some of the inner struggles that high flyers have to contend with. And then of course I'm going to be giving you solutions to the challenges that they face. High achieving, mathematically inclined children have high computational skills, problem-solving strategies, and deductive reasoning. They are often able to compute answers with extraordinary speed and accuracy. Some children develop a high affinity for numbers from a very young age, while some others progress as they move from one stage to the other, depending on factors like the teacher, their environment, the family, curriculum, and things like that. Let's begin our discussion by taking a look at some of the attributes of the high achievers. But take note that these attributes vary from child to child. They have the ability to perform mathematical operations with speed and accuracy. High achievers find it very easy to interpret complex word problems. They score above average in their exams. High achievers are also highly competitive. They have the ability to complete tasks with little or no assistance. And then they are self-motivated. It's now time for us to talk about their frustrations and inner struggles. 1. Some high achievers lack confidence. Many of them have issues with their complex. So for some of them, you can say they have inferiority complex. Surprising, isn't it? I'm sure you're wondering why a child who is so intelligent cannot stand in front of a crowd and talk, cannot even relate properly with his or her peers. These are some of the struggles that the high flyers go through. 2. Some high flyers have what we call cannot afford to fail spirit. That means that they just can't imagine what it means not to do well, or how it feels when they don't do well. So most times they push themselves too hard. Tip number 3. Now some high flyers find it difficult to ask questions. Okay? Now in some of their lessons, they just feel that asking a question will mean that they are not intelligent. It will mean that they're not as wise as everyone thinks they are. Now, I'd like to say this, it's not true, okay? So, high flyers must learn to ask questions, otherwise they will suffer in silence. In some of your math classes, we're talking high flyers now, in some classes, you come across concepts that you don't understand. A little extra explanation will set you on the right track. But if you do not ask, if they don't ask, nobody would know. Because again, sometimes teachers just assume that they know, so they don't even bother asking. And the children too don't ask. So at the end of the day, they just don't understand that concept. And then they just move along without understanding. So sad. And then finally, some high flyers suffer what we call math anxiety. Don't worry, we'll be talking about math anxiety in my subsequent videos. Now it's time to talk about how to sustain and how to help high flyers. 1, we must make learning fun and refreshing. Now, one thing we need to know is that the fact that a child does so well in mathematics does not mean that that child is happy in a dull environment. So for every lesson, make sure that you introduce the lesson with a wow factor. Make sure that the children are engaged. Once you step into the class, the children are excited you're there. That goes for high flyers too. Very important to make lessons warm and exciting. Tip number 2, don't assume, follow up. Now let me break this down. A high flyer, of course we've talked about who a high flyer is and all that. Now when a child is doing so well in mathematics, don't assume that that child will always do well. or don't assume that the child knows everything. It is important for us to ask. As parents, as teachers, as guardians, let us find out from the high flyers, from our children, how they're doing. Let's know if they're struggling with a concept. Let's know if they're struggling with something outside class, because of course to have a total child, it goes beyond just scoring high grades in math, English, science, and all of that. So to have a total child, of course, this must be all encompassing. So ensure that you ask questions, follow up, ask, how are you? How are you doing? Are you okay? Did you finish your work? Is everything fine? Do you have issues? Are you fine? All of that, very important. Please, let's ensure that we follow up all the time and never assume. Tip number 3, prepare your lessons with them in mind. Now, when you're preparing lessons, ensure that you have the high flyers in mind. So what you would do is to create questions with varying difficulties. Of course, in your class, you don't have only high flyers. You have the slow bloomers, you have the average children, and of course, you have the high flyers. So for every lesson, make sure that you have varying questions with varying difficulties, so that when the high flyers are done with a certain level, they move on to the next level and then to the next. And of course, make sure that when you ask questions, you also ask questions that relate to real life situations. It's very important. So you don't put them in a box. Let them expand their knowledge beyond just what goes into their notebook. Help them to think. And that's the beauty of mathematics. It helps you to think outside the box. So give them questions that will help them reason, help them calculate, help them solve real life problems. Tip number 4, close monitoring is key. Close monitoring at home. I know I've talked about this earlier, but I'd like to talk about it again. Close monitoring at home, close monitoring in school. If you do not monitor the children, and because of course we have the mindset that they're always doing the right things, you will find out that they will begin to slip under the cracks. What do I mean? They will begin to make mistakes. They will begin to, in some cases, just drift away from the path. No child is perfect. No one is perfect. However, it's important that you keep tabs. Again, ask questions. Have you done your homework? Did you understand what was taught in school today? Did you attend all your lessons? And things like that will keep the children on their toes. Tip number 5, please give them a break. I know that as high flyers, even they tend to always want to solve. You see them solving, doing something, always busy, working, reading. Some of them don't even have time to socialize. It's time to put a halt to that. Sometimes you must say, stop. And when I say stop, I mean, let them pause for some time. Let them just take time out to watch TV, play games, exercise, run around, just walk around and socialize. It's very important. You know why I'm saying this? Because in life, everything about life is not limited to your books alone. And that's one challenge that high flyers face. They're all about their books. They're just like, I didn't do my assignment, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. All about their studies. It is time to tell them to pause and take a break. Finally, encourage them to participate in extracurricular activities. This will help to strengthen their social skills and of course ensure that their innate talent is put to use. Many times as high flyers, like I said earlier, they stay away from social life. Engaging in extracurricular activities will help them to open up and speak out, to give them this confidence, this boldness to face the world and face the challenges that come with life. Children who are not home at this moment should be monitored as well. The fact that they're in boarding school does not mean that they cannot be checked on. So parents should monitor closely, teachers and even the school should monitor closely to ensure that all the things that I have talked about and more will be actualized, so that the high flyers will keep soaring higher and higher.